Billionaire CEO gets into the car and the black housekeeper tells him to shut up. The reason was, "Shut up now." The echo in the garage swallowed the words. Gavin froze, half his body already inside the black Rivian R1S. The blue LED on the dashboard flickered, and the air smelled of hot rubber and old gasoline. Overhead, cool lights cast hard shadows on the concrete. "Excuse me?" He forced a smile, the phone already on speaker. "Just a second, I'm with." Amara raised her hand. Firm, deep brown eyes. Dark brown skin glowing under the cold light. Curly hair tied back in a low bun. Impeccable gray uniform, but a posture that didn't match invisibility. She pointed with her chin, almost imperceptibly, at the slightly misaligned center console. "Don't speak." Her voice came out in a breath. "Something's wrong." Gavin frowned. "I need to send an audio message to the product team." Up on the windshield, a tiny speck reflected the neon. The car's screen blinked. A faint static crossed the speaker. Too subtle for a layman, too obvious for someone who cleaned that car every day. "Ma'am, this area's for executives." A security guard crossed the hallway, eyebrows raised. "I'm going to need you to leave." Two analysts came out of the private elevator. One chuckled softly, nudging the other with his elbow, like watching a social stumble, public humiliation. Amara took a breath, bit her tongue. Gavin instinctively lifted his chin, the impeccable CEO, the man in the tailored suit. "It's all right, Nate," Gavin said theatrically, to divert. "She just confused my car with one from facilities." And to Amara, in a cold tone that stung, "Your shift is over. You can go." She held on. 1 second. 2. Then she leaned in, lips almost brushing his ear. "If you talk right now, you're done." The word hung between them. Without closing the door, Amara reached over and turned the radio dial until she found steady static. White noise. Makeshift cover. With her other hand, she showed her phone screen, open in the Notes app. "Don't speak. Bugs in the car. Leave without closing the door." Gavin blinked. His heart slammed against his shirt. He stepped out, left the door ajar, earbuds in hand, phone in his inside pocket. The mask of calm still plastered on his face for the garage camera. Amara walked beside him, measured steps, a meter apart. Like nothing was happening. When they reached the yellow line near the exit, she turned her phone to him. "Heard Sloan today. Event bathroom. She ordered Bugs to catch you making useful admissions." Gavin read the name and held his breath. "Sloan?" "Pierce. Ex-wife. 30% partner." A cold chill ran down his spine. He typed back, his thumb trembling. "Are you sure?" "Amara, code word Bluebird. Time, 2:37 p.m. She said, "I need him to say something about releasing." Without compliance. The security guard glanced from afar, suspicious, but already engaged with another call on the radio. The elevator shut. The static still whispered in the background, like rain on a tin roof. Night air wafted up the ramp, carrying the scent of eucalyptus and warm water. Gavin played it cool, pulled out his phone as if checking the news. "You're telling me Sloan planted devices in my car?" His voice was low, barely moving his lips. Amara didn't answer aloud. She pointed to the Rivian's console, glowing in the reflected light. She typed, 3. 1 easy, 1 medium, 1 pro. The pro looks built into the wiring harness. He looked at Amara as if seeing her for the first time, not as the cleaning lady, but as someone who should never have been underestimated. Fine features, firm chin, eyes that saw straight through things. Beautiful in a way that hurt and dangerous to anyone who lived by appearances. "How do you know this?" He swallowed hard. She raised her phone. I clean what you don't look at, and I hear what you don't listen to. Silence. 10 meters away, a dark-windowed SUV idled in a shadowy corner. A man in a cap fiddled with something on the dashboard. Gavin looked away without seeming alarmed. If I don't speak, what do we do? The question came out like dust. You will speak, but not here, not now. She breathed, scanning angles, cameras, routes. Checked her watch. Then typed, leave the static on and only close the door when I say we'll walk to the street. Like I asked. You for an Uber, and we'll talk in writing on my phone. You understand that? This is a crime, he whispered. I understand IT's a setup. And that today you almost walked into IT. She erased and retyped quickly. To fit in 2 lines, the phrase they wanted to catch. I approved the beta release without compliance review. Gavin turned pale. He'd put the call on speaker specifically to talk about the beta of a controversial software patch, pressured by angry investors. If he had said that, out of context, edited, it would have been a self-inflicted bullet with the board and the beat. Sec. How did you know that phrase? He barely moved his lips. Event bathroom. Sloan on speakerphone with a man. She sighed. Make him say exactly that. Their footsteps echoed against the concrete. Behind them, the Rivian still whispered static through the radio. The night breeze carried the scent of distant rain. From the building next door, someone laughed loudly, the delayed joy of a happy hour. The security guard reappeared, closer now. Mr. Hart, will you be needing the car? I can call the driver. The polite tone just for him. A side glance at Amara, like she was clutter, noise, something out of place. Gavin nodded, feigning irritation. No, it's under control. Then, in a blade-thin voice, you coming? Amara didn't even look at the guard. It was like he didn't exist. She typed, I'll go ahead. You stay on the phone like you're on a PIA. Call, 30 steps. Then you close the door. If you close IT now, you're tipping them off. She walked off, firm steps, aligned hips, the low bun perfect despite the wind. Gavin stayed behind, iPhone to his ear, faking a call. With every step, his mind circled back to the same point. Bugs, Sloan, Bluebird. When they reached the edge of the sidewalk, Amara stopped under the amber glow of a streetlight, her skin shining like lacquer. She held out her phone. Short, clean nails. New text burning on the screen. I just not just the car. Gavin read it twice. The traffic on Wilshire Boulevard vibrated like a metallic river in the background. Anything else? She typed, throat tight. Amara looked up serious and typed slowly, each letter like a blow. If they did, what I think they did. The next place is your apartment, and the emergency board meeting is already scheduled. Gavin's iPhone vibrated instantly. A new email, subject line in all caps. Board meeting, Monday 7 a.m. emergency. He swallowed hard. Looked over his shoulder at the SUV in the distance, engine still running. Amara slipped her phone into her pocket and, without ceremony, said, in a low voice, if you don't choose right now who you trust, they'll choose for you. A dry click echoed from the direction of the Rivian, like the sound of something being activated. The click triggered a tiny light behind the rearview mirror. Somewhere someone was listening in real time, and now. They knew that they knew. If you're following this story, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. And if you love stories full of twists and emotion, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That helps this work grow and keeps me motivated to bring more stories that touch the heart. The click still hung in the air when the LED behind the rearview mirror lit up, a cruel little dot. Gavin swallowed hard. Amara didn't blink. Keep walking. Natural, she whispered, barely moving her lips. They continued along the amber-lit sidewalk. the traffic on Wilshire creaking in the background. At the light, she pulled out her phone and typed quickly, showing him the screen as if checking an address. Names, times, code word, Bluebird, 2:37 p.m., event bathroom on the 43rd floor. Her voice on speakerphone and a man laughing. Gavin bit his lip. I'm calling Pry Legal right now. No. Amara stopped his impulse with just a look. If the car's bugged, who says the phone isn't? Who else is compromised in your house or your company? I can't stay silent. Yes, you can, for a few hours. That's what's going to save you. They returned to the SUV like two strangers who happened to choose the same path. Amara opened the passenger door without closing it fully, turned the radio dial until the static covered the air like rain. The white light from the dashboard flared across their faces. No speakerphone, she said, in the volume of a breath. No? Okay, Google. Nothing. Gavin nodded. Now what? Sweep. Outside the company circuit. Someone who doesn't depend on you and doesn't owe you favors. 30 minutes later, they were crossing Fairfax, headed toward a discreet garage at the back of a parking lot in Koreatown. The neon sign blinked audio and security, half burned out. Inside, the mix of smells, hot metal, old coffee, and solder. Flux, a middle-aged man with thin arms and geometric tattoos, looked up from behind a workbench full of tools. I close in 15, he said, suspicious. I'll pay double, Gavin replied, already pulling out his wallet. And you never heard my name. The tech hesitated, took in Gavin's tailored suit, Amara's uncheckable eyes. I'm Jay. Leave the car running, doors open. No phones nearby. Jay put on nitrile gloves, powered up a portable spectrum analyzer. The screen, full of colorful spikes, danced like an EKG. He touched a probe to the center console. The tone rose. There's a pretty happy cricket in here, he said flatly. First obvious one. He pulled out a tiny capsule from the console lining with tweezers, cheap mic, fresh double-sided tape. Sealed it in a zip bag. Gavin exhaled. That's it? If that was it, I'd sleep easy. Second obvious one. Jay slid under. The dash popped 2 clips with a slim tool. A GSM transmitter the size of a USB stick appeared tucked above the glove box, a makeshift antenna snaking through wires. Any amateur buys this online. Someone in your building dropped a beginner's spy manual. Amara watched silently, arms crossed, the work light outlining her sharp features. And the professional one? She asked bluntly. Jay frowned. Haven't made you cry yet. He turned off the car, removed the side panel, exposed the wiring harness like an open vein. Probe near. Nothing. Closer. A sharp beep, almost painful. The tech grabbed a pocket-sized thermal camera. On the screen, one spot was hotter than the rest. Someone playing serious feeds off the wire and hides in the harness dot with the delicacy of a watchmaker. Jay peeled the fabric wrap, thread by thread, until he revealed a tiny piece stuck to the negative, microboard camouflaged with resin the same color as the plastic. It wasn't pretty. It was expensive. Gavin leaned in. What does it transmit? Whatever you let it. Audio, location, even telemetry if you've got a pig on the right barrel. Jay exhaled, choosing words. This isn't black market junk. Corporate level. Whoever put this in knew this car exactly. Amara leaned an inch closer, hand steady on the doorframe, her gray uniform without a thread out of place. Can you tell how long it's been here? Hard with the resin. But the glue on the first mic pulls off a fresh film. I'd bet today, 2:37 p.m., she said, recalling. She said Bluebird. What? Nothing. Gavin covered quickly. Handle that carefully. I'll remove it, but heads up. This thing might have a removal trigger. Someone gets an alert when I touch it. Can you neutralize it? Yes, but it's slow. Jay went to the bench, brought over a makeshift Faraday cage built from copper mesh. We put it in here, block the signal, then work on it inside the cocoon. Gavin's phone vibrated in his inner pocket. He didn't answer. The sky outside the shop was the color of greasy glass. Outside, a black sedan glided slowly past like a shark in shallow water and vanished at the corner. Jay took a deep breath, counted softly. 3, 2, 1. He made a precise move. Tweezers on the microboard, tiny twist, capsule into the cage. The analyzer's beep dropped into a low hum. Okay, it's trapped. Gavin let out the breath he didn't know he was holding. We need to. My legal team. If you call from any company phone, you throw me in the fire with you, Amara cut in. Who else has something to gain from seeing you fall? The CFO? A director? A supplier? You know. I don't. Gavin squinted like he was solving a hard equation. I can't accuse without proof. Today you dodge the trap. Tomorrow you say the wrong phrase, they'll hang you at the board meeting. I'll lose everything if I stay silent. You lose now, or you gain time and choose the battlefield. Jay looked up. There's one more thing. He held up the microboard above the mesh, pointing to a microscopic symbol in the resin, laser-etched. You two recognize this? It looked like a stylized bird, wings spread. Amara and Gavin exchanged a look. The phone vibrated again. Message from an unknown number, no caller ID. A single word on Gavin's screen, Bluebird. He looked up slowly, like staring into a rifle's barrel. Amara stepped back on instinct, heart pounding in her throat. They know we found it, she said, barely a whisper. Jay flicked off the bench lights in one stroke. The workshop plunged into a gloom cut only by the cold glow of equipment. If they got an alert, they're already coming to check. Check how? The black sedan reappeared on the street, and this time it didn't pass. It stopped in front of the half-lowered steel door. Engine running. 2 figures inside, windows tinted. The oldest way there is, Jay answered flatly. In person, the dim light of the workshop still covered Gavin's face as he quietly stepped into the side alley. The black sedan was still parked. There, headlights dimmed. He pulled out a backup phone from his pocket, one with no ties to the company, and typed a code he only used in rare emergencies. The screen flashed. Secure channel activated. Priya, it's me. His voice was low, urgent. On the other end, the sound of typing and a faint sigh. Gavin? You know, you can't call me here unless it's serious. It's worse than serious. My car was bugged. 3 devices. One of them, corporate grade. Silence. Then, firmly, you're not using a company email, right? Not even close. Good. First thing, preserve the chain of custody. Don't throw anything away or stick it in your pocket. Record where and how each item was found and film everything with 2 independent witnesses. I already have a third-party tech who did the sweep. Then let's turn this into undeniable evidence. I want a report with timestamps, photos, and each item sealed separately. He nodded, even though she couldn't see him. And then we play a little chess. Leave one of the bugs in place, but feed it bait. Say things that make the enemy think they're winning while we trace the signal. Gavin looked at Amara, who was listening closely. A honeypot, he said. Priya smiled on the other end. Exactly. A very sweet one. Back at the SUV, Gavin and Amara reinstalled the cheap mic, intentionally poorly hidden, but connected to an isolated transmitter repeating fabricated conversations. The bait phrases were written with precision. I think we can release the beta without more testing. As long as nobody talks to compliance. and Victor can hold the report for another week. Amara read the notes and looked up. You really think this will bite them? I think it'll make them move. And when they move, they leave traces. The next morning, Victor Lang showed up in Gavin's office. The CFO, immaculate in a light gray suit, adjusted his glasses and sat without being invited. Gavin, I've heard some strange rumors. People saying, you're stirring up sensitive stuff? My advice? Don't escalate. Let it go. The more you poke, the more unwanted attention you attract. His tone was almost paternal, but his gaze, too cold for simple concern. Gavin felt the tension in the air. Is there something you know that I don't, Victor? Victor smiled but didn't reply. He just adjusted his tie knot and walked out, leaving a trail of woody cologne in the hallway. Amara came in right after, her expression tense. He knows, yes, and what he knows might lead us to whoever put the bird in my car. Outside, in the company parking lot, the same black sedan was parked 2 rows ahead, windows up. Like it was waiting, Gavin received a notification on his secure phone. Priya had tracked the honeypot device's signal. Location: a rented office under the name of a shell company, in the same building where Victor held private meetings on Fridays. Gavin's office still echoed with Priya's last words when, the next morning, the first bomb dropped. An audio clip began circulating in internal company chats, just 30 seconds. Voices of Amara and Gavin, but with harsh cuts and strange pauses. In the recording, it sounded like she said, if you want me to stay quiet, pay me. The rest was muffled murmuring, like it was recorded in an empty hallway. Minutes later, HR called Gavin and Amara in separately. She was greeted by 2 people, a human resources manager with a rehearsed smile, and a legal advisor who wouldn't look her in the eye. Amara, we're going to need your badge. For now, this is a preventative suspension without pay while we investigate. She took a deep breath. Based on what? The company has a zero-tolerance policy for blackmail and financial coercion against executives. This is a joke, right? The legal advisor wrote without looking up, as if her fate was already sealed. It's to protect the brand. Before lunch, the news had already hit the online tabloids. Ambitious employee attempts to extort billionaire CEO. The headline was paired with a photo of her taken at a charity event months earlier, cropped to highlight her cleaning uniform. Online, the comments came in waves. Insinuations about moving up in life the easy way, veiled jokes about her skin color, even grotesque photoshops. At home in Inglewood, Amara placed her badge in a drawer like she was closing a chapter. The apartment was small, the walls carrying the scent of fresh coffee from the kitchen, where her mother, Lillian, was bottling herbs at the discount pharmacy they ran together. Sweetheart, what happened? They suspended me. Sighed. I tried to blackmail Gavin. Lillian dropped the bottle, her hand shaking. You saved him, and now they make you the villain? I don't know if I can keep going. Amara's voice cracked. Not against people who can make up anything, and the world believes it. In the days that followed, she split her time between helping her mother at the counter, assisting elderly customers, measuring herbal doses, and checking her phone where the measuring herbal doses and checking her phone where the teaching notifications were a mix of supportive messages from friends and anonymous attacks. Each new headline kept reinforcing the narrative they wanted to stick to her. One rainy afternoon, Amara was restocking shelves when the pharmacy's doorbell chimed. A man in a soaked gray overcoat walked in and approached the counter. Sharp eyes, rigid posture. He placed a brown envelope in front of her. This showed up in my mailbox by mistake. I think it's yours. She opened it slowly. Inside were printouts of corporate emails she'd never seen, and among them a partial transcript of the leaked audio, with parts marked in red ink, showing cuts and edits. She looked up to ask something, but the man was already gone, leaving only the sound of the door closing and rain rustling on the awning. Amara gripped the envelope tightly. If it was real, not only did it prove the audio was doctored, it suggested someone inside the company was willing to help her. Silently, the envelope still sat on the kitchen table when Gavin's secure phone vibrated. It was Priya. Her voice was filled with urgency. Gavin, I found something in the maintenance access logs. The name of the person who authorized Caleb North into restricted areas was Victor. Gavin closed his eyes for a moment. The CFO? Yes. The authorization came from his login. Looks like betrayal. The next morning, they called Victor in for a formal meeting. He arrived with his usual meticulous air. Navy blue suit without a single crease, silk tie, leather briefcase. When he sat down, Gavin went straight to the point. Why did your login grant access to areas where listening devices were placed? Victor kept his gaze calm, but his breathing betrayed tension. I have nothing to do with that. Priya turned her tablet to show him the screen. Yes, you do. These are the authorizations, badge number, and timestamp. The CFO hesitated. The silence grew thick. Finally, he ran a hand over his face like carrying a weight he didn't want to share. You don't understand. I didn't have a choice. Priya narrowed her eyes. Explain. Victor took a deep breath. My brother, he's being treated for a rare cancer. The insurance doesn't cover the protocol he needs. Months ago, someone approached me with a dossier, photos, even details of my personal life. They said if I didn't allow certain access, the hospital would get a call that would stop the treatment, and getting it back would be unaffordable. Gavin leaned forward. Who? Victor shook his head. I don't know their real name. They never called from a fixed number, but all the payments for the treatment were routed through an account linked to a company called Bluebird Capital, LLC. Amara, listening silently in the corner, felt a chill down her spine. The same word? She heard Sloane say in the bathroom. Bluebird, she whispered. Victor confirmed with a heavy nod. If I hadn't done it, my brother would be dead by now. Priya closed the tablet, breathing slowly. Then we're dealing with someone above Sloane. Someone who doesn't care about destroying families to get what they want. Gavin looked at Amara. The name Bluebird was no longer just a code. It was the tip of a scheme that might be far bigger than anyone had imagined. Outside, in the hallway, footsteps approached. An assistant opened the door. Pale. Mr. Hart. There's someone at reception asking to speak with Ms. Lewis. Says they have information about this Bluebird Capital. Amara stood up, heart racing. Outside the room, she saw a woman she'd never met, but whose eyes said she knew secrets no one else dared to reveal. The sun was already setting when Gavin parked on a narrow street in Inglewood. The neighborhood smelled of freshly baked bread from the corner bakery. Kids were playing soccer on the sidewalk, and soft music drifted from a porch. He wasn't wearing his usual suit, just a plain blue shirt, sleeves rolled up, trying to seem less like the distant CEO and more like a man trying to make things right. Amara opened the door with a cautious look. Her low bun was a little looser, a few strands falling across her face. What are you doing here? I came to apologize for the suspension. I failed to protect you. She crossed her arms. It's not just about me. It's about what they do to anyone who doesn't have your last name or your money. Gavin took a deep breath, pulling an envelope from his folder. I want you to have legal support. An independent attorney, paid by me, but reporting only to you. Amara hesitated, but the gesture didn't feel like charity. It felt like recognition. I don't work for you now. And I don't want to be your problem. You're not my problem. Amara, you're the only reason I still have this job. He stepped into the small room, with old furniture and shelves full of jars and notebooks. On the table, stacks perfectly organized, receipts, cleaning schedules, corporate floor maps. Gavin ran his fingers across a sheet where every executive movement was recorded with precision. You remember all this by heart? Photographic memory. When you're invisible, you learn to see what others don't. His eyes lingered on hers, and there was a silence that said more than words ever could. Amara looked away first. Don't get it twisted, Gavin. This isn't romance. It's war. I know. But wars are also won when you trust the person next to you. They spent hours reviewing records, lining up dates and facts. With each match, the tension eased, replaced by a strange sense of partnership. When the clock neared midnight, Gavin closed the folder. So we're decided? Yes. We keep investigating this together. But I do it my way. Agreed. You'll be my key witness. He smiled faintly, a smile that wasn't about strategy or power, but about growing admiration. Outside, in the dark-tinted car parked at the corner, a camera lens captured every move from the lit window. A photo of Gavin and Amara leaning over papers, laughing at something only they understood, was sent to an unlisted number with the caption, "They're working together." Adjust the plan. The mood between them was still heavy from the surveillance. Discovery when Priya sent the notification. The honeypot had worked. The decoy device left in the car had transmitted fake phrases for days until the signal traced back to an abandoned industrial warehouse on the outskirts of Los Angeles. That night, Gavin, Amara, and Priya arrived in two separate cars, no interior. Lights to avoid attention. The building's facade bore faded signage from a defunct logistics company. The gate was slightly ajar. Inside, the air smelled of dust mixed with overheated equipment. The space was lit by fluorescent bulbs hanging from makeshift wiring. Rows of servers hummed, and on one table, monitors displayed audio waves, editing software, and folders labeled with dates and codes. Priya typed quickly on her laptop, connecting to the warehouse's internal network. Here it is, all the recorded audio, pre-cut scripts ready to rearrange the conversations. She clicked a folder labeled VIP, and a list of Gavin's files appeared, each one with manipulated segments designed to create false narratives. This isn't amateur work, Gavin said, jaw clenched out in the corner on a stack of boxes. There was a binder with printed contracts. Amara flipped through it quickly, stopping on a strange clause. Strategic Consulting, Bluebird Capital, LLC. The contract wasn't signed by Sloan, but by a representative of a rival company in the electric mobility sector, hidden behind shell corporations. Priya read over Amara's shoulder. They used Sloan as a scapegoat to trigger a proxy fight on the board. But the real beneficiary was this competitor. Gavin took a deep breath, as if the weight of the world had landed on him. So Sloan isn't the mastermind. No, she was used. And she might not even realize how much, Priya replied. Hours later, at a luxury apartment in Beverly Hills, Gavin knocked on Sloan's door. She answered with a flawless face, but her tear-filled eyes betrayed a tension that didn't match her. Usual poise. You came to accuse me? She tried to sound firm. No. I came to tell you I know you're being played too. Sloan faltered, dropping the high heel she held in her hand. They promised to shield me from a regulatory investigation that was about to explode. They said if I cooperated, I'd keep my stakes safe. I believe them. And who are they? Asked Amara, who had been silently observing. I don't know their real names, but all the contacts came through that Bluebird Capital group. Everything looked legit: contracts, lawyers. Then I started getting anonymous messages telling me exactly what to do. As she spoke, Amara had a sudden realization. Wait, weeks ago, I was cleaning the boardroom and saw a serial number handwritten on the mount of one of the audio panels. It was different from the others. Priya immediately looked at her. Do you remember the number? Amara smiled slightly. Photographic memory, remember? I know it by heart. Using that number, Priya was able to cross-reference logistics data and trace the device directly to a batch of equipment purchased by Bluebird's intermediary. It was the missing piece to technically prove the path of the bugs from Gavin's car to the warehouse. As Priya saved the data to an external hard drive, the intercom in Sloan's building buzzed. A metallic voice said only, "Delivery from Bluebird Capital. Need a signature in person." They exchanged glances, realizing whoever was outside knew exactly the three of them were together. The morning of the emergency meeting felt like a courtroom drama. The boardroom at the top of the glass tower overlooked a gray sky that mirrored the tension inside. Around the long walnut table sat the directors, two well-known activist shareholders, journalists waiting outside, and a digital forensics team hired to review the case. Priya entered with steady steps, laptop in hand, followed by Gavin and Amara. All eyes turned to her as the board chair announced, "Ms. Shah, the floor is yours." The attorney projected a detailed timeline on the screen. Dates, times, maintenance logs, footage of the device removals. Here is the complete chain of custody with signatures from two independent witnesses. And here, the original audio recordings versus the edited versions. She clicked, and the room filled with the raw audio. Gavin's normal voice followed by the manipulated version with abrupt cuts and inserted phrases. One of the shareholders leaned forward. It's impossible to ignore the bad faith in this editing. Then, a director, visibly uncomfortable, raised his hand. But how did this employee have access to such sensitive areas and information? Eyes turned to Amara, and the accusation lingered in the air. This could constitute unauthorized access. Gavin stepped in before Priya could respond. Unauthorized access? Her badge was cleared for cleaning by facilities. And here's the footage of the bugs being removed, witnessed, and documented. If she hadn't noticed them, I wouldn't be sitting here today. The murmurs that followed made a few board members look down. Priya took back control. In addition, the device found in the car's wiring harness was traced to a batch purchased through Bluebird Capital and paid for by a competitor. At that moment, the door opened. Two security guards escorted Caleb North inside. He entered with a smug expression, but the sweat on his forehead betrayed nerves. "Mr. North, let's get straight to the point," Priya said. "Who gave you instructions and payment?" "I just got hired to install the equipment. I didn't know anything." "Then why were you receiving regular deposits on the same dates those files were edited?" She projected statements and receipts on the screen. Caleb tried to change the subject, spoke about supposed general services and consulting, but tripped over his own words. One of the digital forensics experts stood up. He just admitted to knowing about the editing, contradicting his earlier version. The board chair gave a signal, and the security guard stepped in. Caleb was detained on the spot under everyone's watchful eyes. Gavin gave Amara a quick glance, a silent thank you. She remained serious, but for the first time, she felt like the truth was starting to win. The moment Caleb was taken away, Gavin's phone vibrated on the table. A short message, "No ID. You stirred up the wrong hornet's nest." This is far from over. The mood inside the company changed in the weeks following the board meeting. The investigation moved quickly. The competitor operating behind Bluebird Capital was formally charged with corporate fraud and industrial espionage. Headlines in business journals exposed the company as a shell operation used to plant devices and manipulate evidence, publicly confirming what Gavin, Amara, and Priya already knew. Victor, once seen as a possible traitor, began cooperating with the authorities. In an internal meeting, he confessed in front of everyone, "I gave in out of fear, but now I'm returning every cent of the bonus I received while under blackmail." The repayment was part of a deal that allowed him to keep his position, now under new governance rules and tighter oversight by the board. Sloane, in turn, lost her influence over strategic decisions. Her usual sharp tone was replaced by a more restrained posture. "I made the wrong choice about who to trust," she admitted to Gavin in a closed-door meeting. To avoid a legal battle that could ruin her reputation and further devalue her shares, she agreed to formally cooperate, handing over emails, meeting logs, and contact information tied to Bluebird Capital. The most anticipated moment came during an internal company event in a packed auditorium. Gavin stepped onto the stage, and before presenting any results, he called Amara to stand beside him. There was a serious mistake. Ms. Amara Lewis was wrongly accused, and today, in front of everyone, I want to offer a public apology. If not for her, many of us would be facing an irreversible outcome. The applause was long and intense, but what truly stunned the crowd was the next announcement. Amara would take the lead on the new Integrity and Oversight Program and initiative to train teams, map risks, and create protocols against espionage. In her first days in the new role, Amara kept a low profile. She wasn't looking for attention, only results. Gavin watched her in meetings, admiring not just the accuracy of her work, but the way she earned respect, even from executives who once ignored her. Their relationship grew quietly behind the scenes. At first, they met away from the company's eyes, discreet dinners at small Los Angeles restaurants, long conversations in the car after meetings. Gavin knew mixing personal and professional life was risky, but he no longer saw how to separate the two. "I don't want this to become a headline, Amara, but I also don't want to hide you," he confessed one evening. She smiled, gently touching his hand. "Then let's do it our way. When the time's right." Months later, at a charity event downtown, Gavin arrived with her. No rehearsed speeches, no posed photos for business magazines. They simply walked together as partners in life and in the fight they had won. The next day, an unmarked box was left at the company's front desk. Inside, just a flash drive and a handwritten note, "Not all enemies have been exposed." Months had passed since the day Caleb was detained and the mysterious flash drive appeared. The corporate storm had passed, but the scars remained and, curiously, had also laid new foundations. The company now showed steady profits, renewed contracts, and most importantly, a rebuilt reputation. The Integrity and Oversight Program, created by Amara, had become a benchmark in the industry. Clear protocols, frequent training, and a whistleblower system immune to tampering. It was a bright afternoon in Inglewood. The streets were decorated with colorful banners and food stands for the annual community event. Children ran between booths, elderly folks gathered in folding chairs to watch performances on the main stage. Gavin climbed the makeshift steps with a microphone in hand. Wearing a plain white shirt with rolled-up sleeves, no suits, no flash. When the crowd's murmur quieted, he began. What saved our company wasn't some new technology or a bold market move. It was learning to listen to the people the world insists on ignoring. Amara, in a navy blue dress that highlighted her natural glow, stood to the side of the stage, taking in every word. Her expression held pride and quiet emotion. Gavin continued, "Humility to admit we don't know everything. the willingness to listen before we act, courage to face power plays. Truth needs process, not shouting, and true greatness lies in recognizing the worth of those who've always been there, even when no one was watching. The applause was warm, some rising to their feet. Amara stepped onto the stage, and for a moment, time seemed to slow. Gavin looked at her as if no one else was there. That look said it all. She wasn't just the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen. She was also the most honest, the strongest, the most essential. After the ceremony, they walked together through the fair, greeting neighbors, tasting food, laughing at spontaneous remarks. There were no photographers, no staffers, just two people, equals in step and in purpose. Their hands found each other naturally, no need to hide or announce anything. They already knew what they were to each other. As the sun set, painting the sky in gold and orange, Gavin said softly, "Maybe this was the biggest deal of my life." But it wasn't in the market. Amara smiled, holding his gaze. "I know, it was right here." She pointed to his heart. At the edge of the square, a hooded figure watched from afar. As they turned to leave, a corporate badge slipped from their coat, marked with the logo of a rival company. So, what did you think of this story? Leave your rating from 0 to 10 in the comments so I can see how much you enjoyed it. If you liked it, give the video a thumbs up, share it so more people can hear this story, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next ones. And before you go, I've already picked out another powerful story that'll move your heart even more. I'm sure you won't want to miss it.